Hey everybody, thank you for joining me in the second in a series of videos of me building a do-it-yourself bass guitar kit. Now in this one I'm going to be going over the body prep, which will consist of sanding and wood grain filling. Hope you enjoy. Okay, so before we get started, let me talk about a couple things. In fact, let me kind of get in the frame a little bit. Um, Big believer in using quality products if you want to do a quality job. Um, so with that, and let me just say I'm not a shill for any of these products. Just once again, I like doing things the right way and I like using quality products. So in terms of sanding, which is what we're going to be doing, I like using the 3M SandBlaster Pro or SandBlaster sandpaper sheets. They just last a lot longer than a lot of the cheaper stuff. They're $5 for a pack of like five, I think, 5 sheets, which really isn't bad. They last you for a while, and for this project, I'm probably really only going to use like maybe 2 or 3 sheets at the most. So yeah, so use good stuff if you're going to be doing this. After all, if you want to do a quality job, use quality products. Also, with that, it's no secret I'm kind of a cheapskate as well. And when I was shopping and getting my supplies for everything, I was looking at getting a sanding block, and for just a plastic rubberized sanding block at a big box hardware store, they wanted like $10. $10 for a block of rubber. So no, that was not going to fly with me. So I decided to make my own. And with this, in fact, I'll bring it a little bit closer. All I did was I just took a hunk of 2x4 that I had laying around, and this kind of non-slip grip shelf lining material. Stapled it on there, and then stapled my sheet, and then all I got to do is just yank the staple on each end and replace it with a new sheet. And yeah, so there you go. Cost me a whole nothing, essentially. So yeah, so that wasn't going to fly with me. Let's, if you can do things like this, I recommend it. Save yourself a few dollars. Another thing I did in terms of prepping my area, I like my workbench, but this is going to be a little bit messy over the next course of steps and stages that I work in. And one of the things I did was I lined, move this off, I lined, and here, hopefully I won't make anyone motion sickness, but I lined my workbench with some butcher paper and then hit it with some duct tape, just so with this project it's going to get a little messy for between the sanding and the wood grain filling, and I'd rather not have all that goo all over my actual workbench material itself. This is always replaceable. I can always throw a always throw a new sheet on and just be done with it. So hold on, let me put you all back. Okay. So once again, so here's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be sanding the body and getting it prepped for wood grain fill. Why am I putting wood grain filler in it? Well, mahogany is known to be or considered to be an open grain wood. And essentially what that means is, the grains are like so. In fact, you can probably even tell if I kind of bring this in a little bit closer. Let me try and get that in the frame a little bit. You might be able to see that if you run your nail across it, that means the grains are wide open. Like I said, they're kind of like this. And so when you want to start coating it with your polyurethane or your lacquer or whatever you want to do, no matter how much you sand and spray, it's never going to fill. Everything's still going to run in there, and you're always going to have these lumpy bumpies running across it. Now, some people like that. I don't. That's not what I'm trying to achieve. I want to have a relatively smooth surface. I'm not looking for like a high gloss finish on this. I want to do a satin or a matte finish, but I still want it to be nice and smooth. So that's why we're using a grain filler. And So with that, with the sanding, why you got to sand it first is, as I had mentioned previously, Solo Music Gear, what they do is they coat these things with a poly resin sealer. And they do that, like I said, to protect the bodies and the necks from, I guess, humidity control and things like that. Because, they probably knock a lot of these things out, spray them, and then they have them stored someplace. So what it does, I guess it helps protect the wood, and so they can get it to the customer. And so we're going to knock this down. In fact, I'll bring this back over here again. You can see how there's kind of a sheen to it. And so I'm going to be knocking that all back. Now, Solo recommends using a 180 grit and then moving up successfully to I think it was a 240 grit and then a little bit higher, like 320. I'm just going to go 180 initially for the first pass, and then I may finish it up with the 220. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how the result is. If I think I've knocked enough off with the 180, then I'll just stick with that. If I have to go 220, I will, but I'm going to try and save myself a few steps if I can. And then we'll just knock the sanding residue off with I'll use like a t-shirt material cloth, some clean. Just knock the residue off it, and get it all prepped. In fact, the series of steps I'm going to go through is I'm going to sand it. Then I'm going to run a damp cloth over it, let it dry, see if it raises the grain up a little bit. Probably sand it back down one more time, and then we'll go with the wood grain fill. So with that, now I don't have to give a class on how to do sanding, but for those who may not know, use a nice flat block for your flat surfaces. That way you have nice even pressure going all the way down. You don't want to sand across the grain like this. That's not a good thing. You want to always go along with the grain. And that's really pretty much about it. If you really want more in-depth sanding, there's probably tons of YouTube videos, or you can Google it and really find out what all the experts say about sanding. But for this, that's pretty much it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand this. I'm going to spare you the gory details. I'll just sand it so you guys don't have to watch me sanding the body of this thing for the next 5-10 minutes. And I'll cut back into it and pick it up from there. Okay, so I did a first pass. Here you can see the sanding residue, and this kind of chalky stuff that you see, the stuff that got knocked off. This is that's the sealer. You're not scraping off any wood at this point. You're not using that heavy of a grain, I guess you could say, or a grit of sandpaper. So you're not knocking off any of the wood. You're just taking off that glossy sanding sealer. Now I'm using a brush right here. Like I said, I got t-shirt material also, but I'll just kind of knock this stuff off with a brush. Just kind of give you guys a rough idea. So as I pick this thing up, so you'll now notice we don't have that high glossy sheen, or at least not as much. I'm still going to hit it some more. I'll probably do probably 2 more passes over it. And go from there. Okay, onward and upward. Okay, so I've just finished sanding this rascal. Did the backside, front, the edges. Edges were a little tough. In fact, I may have to go over a few other spots. Especially it was tough. In fact, you can already tell. Are the horns right here. All I'm trying to do is just trying to get a good majority of that sanding sealer off this thing. I just want the grain filler to really adhere to it. And like I said, just kind of knock off that sealer. The sealer would be fine. It's going to penetrate the wood anyway. but I just didn't want it all over the thing to where it may inhibit, or prohibit, I should say, the wood grain filler from adhering to it. So there you go. So before we go forward, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wet this down and see if we can get the grain raised up a little bit. So just going to take a cloth, get some water. Just dampen it. You don't want to saturate the thing. Just dampen it. Wipe all that sanding residue off it. Like I said, you're not using a heavy enough grit of sandpaper to knock off actual any wood material. You're just trying to take off that sealer that's on there. Water. I didn't bother with the neck pocket. I didn't bother with the pickup cavities. Not worried about that. They're not going to show. Same with the control panel cavity. Not worried about that. Just the main surface area. So there you go. So what we'll do is we'll let that dry for probably a half hour. See if we can get the grain to raise up a little bit. And if it seems like it, then I'll just sand it back down a little bit more. And then commence grain filling. But, you know, from the way it looks already, I think we'll be in good shape. And we might be ready for just doing the grain filling right off the bat. So, anyway, we'll see. We'll let it go. Okay. So now the next step we'll do, now it's sanded, I don't think I'm going to have to hit it again. I think I like where it's at. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the wood grain filler. Now, as I mentioned before, mahogany is an open grain, and like I said, you want to fill the grains so that you have a nice smoother finish overall. Now, some people like it kind of being a raw, kind of woodsy feel, but that's not what I'm trying to achieve or going for. I want something kind of very nice, smooth, silky feel to it. And that's what I'm going to achieve with wood grain filler. Now, once again, after doing tons of research and looking into it, it seems to be the most luthiers, guitar builders, kit builders, when they do wood grain filling, they use Timbermate. So kind of zoom in on this a little bit so you guys get an idea. This is Timbermate Mahogany. Now, another trick that's out there is using a darker colored wood grain filler, which will make the grains actually pop a little bit. I thought about doing that, and then I got kind of nervous and chickened out, so I think I'm just going to stick with the mahogany wood filler itself, and go with that color. So before we do that, I'll move this. We have our wood grain filler. We have a tub to put it in, and that's one of the nice things about this that you hear about, see about, as it's demonstrated. This is a water-based wood grain filler, and it's kind of a almost Play-Doh-like, clay-like material, and it's kind of funky. Get a little bit in there. Get a little blob in there. Well, what's cool about this stuff, because it is water-based, um, what's really cool about it is that, let's say you have some left over, like let's say I don't use all this, you can just let it dry, and it gets kind of back to its normal texture or condition or whatever you want to call it, and you can reuse it over and over again until you run out. So we got that. Let's throw a little water into it. Now they say you want to do like a 10 to 15% mixture. I'm going to try and go for a, I don't know, kind of like a ketchup consistency. Let's try and bring it a little closer. I'm just kind of mashing it against the side of the container. The smell is a little funky. Kind of smells like Band-Aids. It's not bad. It's not toxic or anything, but it is funky. Oop. And there you go. I just made a mess. Just hit my workbench too. That's why I put paper down. With that, as I'm doing this, I'm going to be wearing some gloves just because I don't want this goop all over my fingers, underneath my fingernails. And then to apply it, you can do it a couple ways. I've seen some people get the stuff on here and they'll actually use like a squeegee to put it on and scrape it across and do it that way. I'm actually just going to use, once again, some t-shirt material that I have, kind of wad it up into like a bonnet and rub it in a circular fashion that way. Okay, I think we're almost there. Like I said, it's a very clay-like material. In fact, I'll probably need more. I don't know. Let's see. I don't know if that's going to be enough. But like I said, in terms of consistency, some people said try and get it kind of like pasty like mayonnaise or ketchup. Other people said like pancake batter. I guess that's kind of more of the latter that I'm getting right now. And oh, and one last thing. Move that off to the side. One last important supply that you may want to get. For jobs like this is a nice cold frosty beverage. Perfect. Okay. Okay. So let's pour a little stuff on. Like so. Back in the frame. I'm just going to take this. I want to make sure everything's good. Okay, good. And I'm just going to take this stuff and just rub it into the grains. Now, another thing you don't necessarily want to do, I might have already overdone it or overdid it, is as much as you want to get this stuff in and penetrate it into the grain, you don't want so much of this on here that you're going to be just sanding like crazy. Now that might have been my mistake already. I might have put some of this on a little too heavy. And as you can see, it's already starting to dry. So let's just... And already, because I'm working a little too fast, forgot to use my gloves. What we're going to do is, once this is in, we're going to let it dry. We're going to let it dry, and then what we'll do is we'll then sand it down. Yeah, look at it, it's already... Yeah, it's already tacky and setting in already. So yeah, so there you go. That's what it looks like. And so what we'll be doing, or what I'll be doing once it dries, and I'm going to give it, let's see, I think it says about an hour. It doesn't really say. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I'll probably give this thing at least a half hour to an hour to fully dry. Probably an hour just to err on the side of caution. And then I'm going to knock it back with the 220. And if it needs another coat, I'll do it. But for now, just going to do the one. And in fact, this a little bit more. And then, yeah, like I said, some people want to put this on and then try and squeegee it off, try and get it into the grains. And that's what I was doing with the swirling, is really making sure I penetrate and got it into the grain. But, yeah, there you go. And then what I'll do is, once again, I won't drag you guys through the whole process, doing the whole body. I just want to kind of give an example of what you need to do initially. And then what I'll do later on is I'll do the sides and do the front. But for now, that's it. So I will see you guys in a little bit. Okay, so I let it dry for about an hour. In fact, kind of touched up the sides and stuff as well. I checked their website real quick, and this is really remarkable stuff. Besides being a grain filler, they even say it can even be kind of a sanding sealer, a patch, works for internal, external applications. Really, really good quality stuff. Like I said, I'm not a shill for anybody, but I do believe in good product and using quality stuff. So there you go. They also said on the website that this stuff will dry anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. So I let it go for 60 minutes, an hour. It's totally dry. It may also, it might also matter what kind of conditions you're in. Today's pretty cool afternoon day. I think it's only about 66 degrees. Humidity is fairly low. So that kind of helps out as well. So yeah, so now we're going to sand this. And before I get started, when you're going to be sanding stuff, get masks. I know I don't like breathing in the fumes to things like this. Once again, 3M product just because it's quality stuff. Fairly inexpensive. We're going to use the 220 to sand with. And what we'll do is just take a sheet. If I can get it out. There we go. Get my trusty homemade sanding block. What I'll do is I'm just going to pop that staple out. Well, that one got stapled in a little harder. There we go. Get those out of there. Get that out. And that looks good. Okay. Now my stapler's been acting up. It's a little old. So let's see if it actually staples this time. Cool. Put that up there. Put that up there. And once again, I don't want to bore everyone with a sanding video, but actually this time I'm actually going to wear gloves just because I don't like the gritty feeling of sanding. I'm not going to bore everyone with a video of me sanding the stuff for the next 10 minutes or so. I'm just going to do a quick sand on this. If I can get this on properly. Actually good enough for government. So yeah, let's see what happens. So there it is, real quickly, roughly. Where's my trusty brush? As you can see, it's probably a good idea getting one of these bad boys. Just as you can see, look at all the dust that comes off it. Now another thing that I didn't do, let me see if I can find something. Hold on. If you're wrestling around, it's just because I'm getting a nail. And I'm just going to kind of clean out these holes. That the Timbermate might have filled in. You may want to do that. Get toothpicks or, like I said, just a nail, and just to kind of clean out the holes that might have gotten filled in. But anyway, let me sand this down. Let me get the sides and stuff, and I'll kind of show you a result. And yeah, go right there. Be right back. Okay, so I sanded it off, and there's still a little bit of residue on here that I could probably knock off, and I probably will. I'll finish it up off camera. But just to show you, because people might be a little worried or freaked out that maybe the colors change from all that stuff. Let me just give it a quick wipe down and just kind of show you that it didn't change the color of the wood at all. Like I said, what it does though, it's still a little gritty because I didn't wipe it off completely. Still a little bit of dust on there. See if I can. Times like this, I wish I had an air compressor just to blow all the stuff off. But what it does is it does close up. I'll try and angle this a little bit better. Not sure if you can see, but it does close the grain. It fills the grain quite well. Like I said, I've still got a little bit of sanding to do. Get this residue off the edges here. A little bit of cleanup. I don't think I'll need another application. Once again, let's kind of zoom in if I can a little bit. Hopefully the focus is working. It's not too wonky. Here, let me do this. Okay, here we go. I'm going for a ride. I'll try and get here in the light. So you can see that all this grain is filled now with the wood grain filler. And really did a nice job. Now, I might have to do a second coat. I'm not sure. I'm going to check it out. I'm going to do the... here we go. I still got to do the front side. Do a little more cleaning on it. But for the most part, I think we're going to be okay. Once again, I'm not going to bore you with all the details of the front side. It's all exactly the same. Mix some more up, put it on there, spread it around in circular motion, really get it into the grain. Then do sanding, clean up, get all the dust off it, and then yeah, then we'll be ready for the next stage. In the next video, will be me deciding on what I want to do next. Now, I mentioned in the very first video, if I can get this off, I mentioned in the very first video that I was going to try and keep it natural because I like the natural color of the mahogany. But I think I might be changing my mind. As much as I like the natural color of mahogany, I think I want to go with more of a, pardon me, I think I may want to go with more of a red mahogany color. Not cherry, not that red, but a red mahogany. So I'm going to check it out. Now, I'll get into talking about stains and dyes and stuff like that later in the next video. But yeah, so next video will be staining and then finishing this bad boy up, and we'll have this done, and we can move on to the next parts of the guitar, which would be the neck and wiring and all the other good fun stuff. So anyway, so that's it for this video. Thanks for joining me, and we hope to see you soon.